Hi. Welcome back to American Miscellany. Here we have a lovely engraving of the city of Panama. Hopefully you can get a nice view of that. It's the city of Panama. Unfortunately, I don't think that we have an associated text with that. I believe we're missing a few pages here. We left off on page 67 in Steubenville, Ohio. We had a very short piece on Steubenville, Ohio, and then it looks like we're missing the pages. Here we have from 68 to 70, so we're probably missing the article on the city of Panama, but we at least get a lovely picture of it, and we get to go ahead and skip halfway into the next essay. That would be essay number 22, and it is called Washington's Residence in New York. We're here on page 71 of American Miscellany. This book was published in 1865, and it's just a collection of very random essays. And it's going to be even more random to dive halfway into it. But let's see what we've got. Washington's Residence in New York. This house that Washington in 1790 took his final departure from New York. That was half a sentence there. Okay. It was always his habit to endeavor, as much as possible, to avoid the manifestations of affection and gratitude that met him everywhere. He strove in vain, he was closely watched, and the people would have their way. He wished to have slipped off unobserved from New York, and thus steal a march upon his old companions in Arras. Not sure if that's printed correctly, but there were too many of the dear, glorious old veterans of the Revolution at that time of day, in and near New York, to render such an escape even possible. The baggage had all been packed up, the horses, carriages, and servants ordered to be over the ferry in Paulus Hook by daybreak, and nothing was wanting for departure but the dawn. The lights were yet burning when the president came into the room where his family was assembled, evidently much pleased in the belief that all was right, when immediately under the windows the band of the artillery struck up Washington's march. "There," he exclaimed, "it's all over. We are found out. Well, well, they must have their own way." New York soon after appeared as if taken by storm, troops and persons of all descriptions hurrying down Broadway towards the place of embarkation, all anxious to take a last look on him whom so many could never expect to see again. The embarkation was delayed until all complimentary arrangements were completed. The president, after taking leave of many dear and cherished friends, and many an old companion in arms, that's what that is, stepped into the barge that was to convey him from New York forever. The coxswain gave the word, "Let fall." The spray from the oars sparkled in the morning sunbeams. The bowsman shoved off from the pier, and the barge swung round to the tide. Washington rose, uncovered in the stern, to bid adieu to the masses assembled on the shore. He waved his hat, and in a voice tremulous from emotion, pronounced farewell. It may be supposed that Major Bowman, who commanded the artillery on the interesting occasion, who was first captain of Lum's regiment, and a favorite officer of the War of the Revolution, would, when about to pay his last respects to his beloved commander, load his piece with something more than mere blank cartridges. But the thunders of the cannon were completely hushed when the mighty shout of the people arose that responded to the farewell of Washington. Pure from the heart it came, right up to heaven it went, to call down blessings upon the father of his country. The barge had scarcely gained the middle of the Hudson when the trumpets were heard, at Paulus Hook, where the governor and the chivalry of New Jersey were in waiting to welcome the chief to those well-remembered shores. Escorts of cavalry relieved each other throughout the whole route up to the Pennsylvania line. Every village and every hamlet turned out its population to greet with cordial welcome the man upon whom all eyes were fixed, and in whom all hearts rejoiced. What must have been the recollection that crowded on the mind of Washington during that triumphant progress? Newark, New Brunswick, Princeton, Trenton. What contrast between the glorious burst of sunshine that now illuminated and made glad everything around those memorable spots, with the gloomy and desolate remembrance of 1776. Then his country's champion, with the wreck of a shattered host. He was flying before a victorious and well-appointed foe, while all around him was shrouded in the darkness of despair. Now in glorious progress over the self-same route, his firm footsteps presses upon the soil of an infant empire, reposing in the joys of peace, independence, and happiness. Among the many who swelled his triumph, the most endeared to the heart of the chief were the old associates of his toils, his fortunes, and his fame. Many of the Revolutionary veterans were living in 1790, and by their presence gave a dignified tone and character to all public assemblages. And when you saw a peculiarly fine-looking soldier in those old days, and would ask, "To what corps of the American army did you belong?" drawing himself up to his full height with a martial air, and back of the hand thrown up to his forehead, the veteran would reply, "Life Guard, Your Honor." And proud and happy were those veterans in again beholding their own good Lady Washington. Greatly was she beloved in the army. Her many intercessions with the chiefs for the pardon of offenders, her kindness to the sick and wounded, all of which caused her usual arrival in camp to be hailed as an event that would serve to dissipate the gloom of the winter quarters. Arrived at the line, the New Jersey escort was relieved by the cavalry of Pennsylvania. And when near to Philadelphia, the president was met by Governor Mifflin. Maybe the guy who started Dunder Mifflin, maybe, I hope. And a brilliant cortege of officers, and escorted by a squadron of horse to the city. Conspicuous among the governor's suite, as well for his martial bearing as for the manly beauty of his person, was a General Walter Stewart, the son of Aaron, and a gallant and distinguished officer of the Pennsylvania line. To Stewart, as to Cadwalader, Washington was most warmly attached. Indeed, those officers were among the choicest of the contributions of Pennsylvania to the army and cause of independence. Mifflin, small in stature, was active, alert, every inch a soldier. He was a patriot of great influence in Pennsylvania in the times that tried men's souls. And nobly did he exert that influence in raising troops with which to reinforce the wreck of the Grand Army at the close of the campaign of 1776. Arrived within the city, the crowd became immense. The president left his carriage and mounted the white charger, and with the governor on his right, proceeded to the city tavern in Third Street, where quarters were prepared for him, the light infantry, after some time, having opened a passage for the carriages. At the city tavern, the president was received by the authorities of Philadelphia, who welcomed the chief magistrate to their city as to his home for the remainder of his presidential term. A group of old and long-tried friends were also in the waiting. Foremost among these, and the first to grasp the hand of Washington, was one who was always nearest to his heart, a patriot and a public benefactor, Robert Morris. After remaining a short time in Philadelphia, the president speeded on his journey to that home where he ever found rest from his mighty labors, and enjoyed the sweets of rural and domestic happiness amid his farms and at the fireside of Mount Vernon. Onward, still onward, whirls the tide of time. The few who yet survive that remember the father of his country are fast fading away. The few who yet survive that remember the father of his country are fast fading away. A little while, and their gray heads will all have dropped into the grave.